Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Astrological Intentions. I am your host, Alex Reevy, along with the writing wrangler herself, Sandy Reevy.
Hi, everyone. I know where you got that one from.
And it is episode 118, and it is October 26th. So let's get right into it. In the transits, we have Tuesday, October 27th, Mercury retrograde, ingress Libra.
Moving back into
Tuesday, October 27th, Venus ingress Libra.
help on the way.
Saturday, October 31st, the full moon and the blue moon.
Blue moon.
Saturday, October 31st, Sun opposing Uranus.
Clean the cobwebs.
And Sunday, November 1st, Mercury square Saturn.
Take the high road.
Then in Talisman time, Sandy has finished up a very, very cool pre-sale Talisman offer to strengthen the mind and clarify the message. Then upcoming on Monday, October 26th, to gather successfully in a group activity, and Saturday, October 31st, to take a bow and increase my responsibility. Then on the horizon, we have many online webinars for you that are coming up and on the website, so stay tuned. And in our house, Sandy and I are going to be talking all about Halloween, the history, the games, our favorite costumes, and some little witchy things to do and trivia to know. So stay tuned for this episode of Astrological Intentions. And the search ends here, where the night is totally clear, and your heart is fierce, and so you finally know you control where you go. Hello, Miss Writing Wrangler.
I showed you my homework.
It was so beautifully written. I'm not kidding you, because normally I'll get a lot of comments about your writing as like more cryptic, because people are like, what does she mean? I don't understand. But your homework has been so descriptive, so clear, that it's almost like this Mercury Kazemi sun is like working for you. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm enjoying, I don't know about the deadlines of the homework, but
Right.
the assignments I certainly am. It really takes me hours to formulate, and then I can write it easily.
Yep. So anyway, that's
or maybe
why
it's my new computer.
Could be too. That's the reason why you're the writing wrangler. And that's our
True statement.
And if you ever hear that gong, that's usually when we're recording from our Evanston sanctuary here, and we have a little hourly timer. So that's our reminder that it's at the top of the hour.
It started out as a Christmas gift, thinking, because you can't wake up in the morning. Never, ever. And so I thought, she has a chime, a beautiful, singing bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent some money on this for a Christmas gift one year.
It's beautiful, but it didn't wake me up.
It didn't work. And I'm like,
We're still trying to figure that out.
So now it's moved down to the sanctuary.
So let's go direct to you all. Thank you, everybody, for listening in to Astrological Intentions. This is, of course, our weekly podcast where we love, talking astrology and being here, mother-daughter, and sharing these moments with you all. So thank you. And we do have some feedback. This is from Lori R. Here in Illinois. And in this feedback, she's basically talking about an event which has already happened, but it was in the queue for me to add to the going direct. So here we go. She says, 5 stars. I love you both, and of course, your mom is extremely special. I'm excited for her to meet this new group, and I know they will love her as much as I do.
Aww.
And it was such a great event.
It really was.
This was a private event that we did, and it's so cool to look at new people's charts, but able to see their reaction and what's going on in their life and kind of this unfolding that happens during these events.
Especially when all 4 of them
are good friends.
Turn to each other and go,
yeah.
What?
Yes.
Because they know what's going on in each other's lives.
So thank you all for all of your feedback. It is, again, our food. It's our sustenance. It's what keeps us going. So keep sending that in. In the transits, we have Tuesday, October 27th, Mercury retrograde, ingress Libra. Tell me about this.
This happens at 8:33 p.m. It's acknowledging fairness. Something or some issue that has a new focus. This is Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograded in Scorpio. So it went from Libra into Scorpio and then started its retrograde cycle. So here it's revisiting the Libra. And so there is something about whatever you learned or saw the deep intensity of a subject, you can, when it goes backwards here on this day, on Tuesday, the 27th, you get to see a little easier breath and maybe figure out a way to solve, to acknowledge fairness. Because on September 6th, all the way to September 27th, that's when this Mercury was in Libra when he was direct. So now he's coming back. So if you need to think about that whole month of September, what were you dealing with? Is there something that needed an issue, a somebody, a something that has a new focus? Like you've gotten more information about it. And it's already at this point past the Cazimi. So, which means it's the halfway point when the Mercury goes inside the sun.
Right.
So this is now coming out of, still retrograde, but it's on the easier side.
So what would be some cool practical ideas for this?
Really being more diplomatic in some area that you think that you need to kind of redo or apologize for or look at again, or just have a different opinion, a new perception, and to speak, use different words around that situation or issue.
And the same day, Tuesday, October 27th, Venus is ingressing in Libra. So we have Mercury retrograde and Venus going to be there. This is
like 8 minutes later. Like this is definitely an interesting day to pay attention to. It's not my favorite day, and it's certainly not a conflict day. It's interesting because here we've got, if we can picture what I just mentioned, Mercury going backwards into Libra. So it's going 29 degrees, 28, 27, going backwards. And Venus is now done with Virgo and now moving into her sign where she has rulership. And literally this is at 8:41 p.m. 7 minutes later, now Venus moves into 0 Libra, 1 Libra, 2
So they're kind of like meeting
so
together.
One's going in the front door. Venus is going in the front door at 0. And Mercury, it's almost as if he forgot something or he has to meet back up with Venus. So he's going in the back door because that's where he left.
That's a really great image because my thought on this was kind of like, okay, so train number 1 leaves Chicago at 8:07 and the other train leaves New York at, when do they meet up? But that's nicer. They're kind of in the same house.
Yeah, she certainly is the ruler here. So she's Queen Bee. So help's on the way. So he's getting a little sense he needs some help. He needs to help make some decisions. Is there a relationship, a social? So the Mercury feels like he can deliver the message now that the owner of the house is home. Right? It's that kind of feeling.
And I think especially Mercury coming back to receive a message from Venus would be a lot like maybe, Venus's answer would have to do a lot with love. And one of my favorite things is like, kill him with kindness. That is the best way, right? It's the best way sometimes, even though you're frustrated, even though your feelings might have been hurt. But it's sometimes just not worth that.
Yeah. Deliver with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not always a kiss, but certainly a smile or a thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah, with that love.
They're not going to conjunct. They're not going to
Right.
conjunct. So, as Venus moves into the front door of her home, her castle, he's slipping in the back door. And then he eventually starts on November 3rd, he starts moving
forward.
Mm-hmm. So they really they have an idea that they're both in the same house. Maybe they're hearing each other, but they don't really meet up. They don't sit and have a dinner together,
mm-hmm.
right? Because she's still in the front part of the house and he's in the back quarters.
Right. And I don't want to take this transit on too long. However, I was just with a girlfriend of mine and we were talking about her mom lives in Florida half the time and Chicago half the time.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky her. But it was funny because my friend was telling me that her and her mom talk more often and engage more often when her mother is away in Florida. Because when her mother's living here in Chicago alongside of her, they don't have to talk on the phone as much. Mm-hmm. So that just it struck really true to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, what I also think is going here with this Mercury and Venus. They're right in the same location. So that just being close in proximity, that communication somehow is already there. Mm-hmm. And that peace is already there. Mm-hmm. So let's move on. Saturday, October 31st, we have 2 transits. The first, we have talked even in a webinar about this one, the full moon, aka the blue moon on Halloween.
Blue moon.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
This is at 8 degrees of Taurus, and this happens at 9:49 a.m. It means 2 things. A full moon being a blue moon means 2 things. It means the second full moon in a 31-day period, in a 31-day month, right? Where we get 2 mm-hmm. full moons. Or it's the third of 4 full moons in a quarter.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't know that added little.
Did you not attend the webinar?
I did, and apparently I missed that cue.
Yeah, it's interesting that it happens on Halloween.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
And we have a lot to talk about.
Hallows Eve.
Yes.
So it's going to be the scary full moon. And can I just add another thing? Because literally about an hour later,
mm-hmm.
the sun in the full moon configuration, right? The full moon is sun on one side, moon on the other side. Sun's giving all light to a full
It's
moon.
full light, yes. Mm-hmm.
So this is in the morning, so it'll start to be waning by the time the sun goes down, and really like the moon comes up for the trick-or-treaters, if that's actually going to happen this year, because I got this to say that the sun opposes Uranus, which means that the moon
must be conjunct Uranus.
So clean the cobwebs. This is an unexpected day. It's going to be different than usual. It may not be scarier, but it will be more shocking.
Interesting.
It'll be more surprised. So, we do Halloween every year.
I know it's not your favorite holiday, but
it
one
was
of mine.
When I was a princess. When I got to wear blue eyeshadow from this little... My mom had this blue eyeshadow stick. Hey, does anybody remember this? And each color was about an inch long, and they popped on.
Oh, with like a little plastic?
Yeah, it was like a Legos eyeshadow.
And then you could also like take out the color and put it in the back of the pen to push the other one up?
No, not really.
Oh, never mind.
And it's not a
Those
pen.
were pencils. But they also had those with like colored crayons.
It like just popped in, and then you could do blue, green, brown, purple, different colors of eyeshadow.
Interesting. I don't know it.
Oh my gosh. And the blue was so mermaid blue.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was my favorite, and I got to wear it every Halloween. That's the only reason why I liked it. But yeah, this Halloween's going to be different. It's going to be, what are they saying here in Evanston? Please turn off your lights, close your blinds.
Don't give the Halloween trick-or-treaters any type of hope.
Or light up your front doorway and have a bowl of packages, of small little packages of candy out in a bowl.
And there's going to be the trick-or-treaters that come by that dump that whole entire thing into their...
Depends, I think, where you are.
I agree.
I've done that. And there's
I think
left over. Maybe it's because I give crappy candy out.
Maybe. Well, I do remember every single year, kids would talk about the houses that always give away the king size candies, but that's another subject. That's also, interesting. I think that there won't be those types of trick-or-treaters, especially if all the kids are being supervised by parents. I think that's the area that you're talking about. But there's always the older kids that go by themselves and they have no type of supervision. Okay, moving on. We have Sunday, November 1st. Happy November.
And daylight savings time.
And we have Mercury square Saturn.
This is the second of 3 passes. Take the high road. This is now Mercury's retrograde in square to Saturn direct. So this is a little different. The first time they met up was September 23rd when Mercury was moving forward and Saturn was retrograde. So I called that are you sure? This whole time still is feeling restraint. It's feeling limited. You don't really know what to say. You have to reword some of the thoughts and contracts and things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
But Mercury here on this day, November 1st, is slowing down because it's going to get ready to move direct in 2 days. So on election day, November 3rd, Mercury comes out of its retrograde. Could it have been a kind of worse day? But it's at that time can be more productive, make sense of the path that you're on. But it's taking the high road. You got to do something that takes a longer time to do. It's not a quick fix or a quick road or the easy button that I talk about a lot.
I do want to say that I'm, just speaking about, election day and this Mercury retrograde that we've been kind of working with. I'm very, very impressed with the voter turnout, the early voting turnout, because we've set a record in U.S. history. And when on average there would be about 5 million early voters by this time, we're at 45. And
million.
How many did I say?
Well, no,
did I say billion?
No, you said million, but you said 45.
45 million. Yeah. Correct. Yes. I was like, did I say that wrong? And I think that's so important. I'm so excited because people are feeling empowered, because why else would people vote?
Well, we're in a pandemic. Everybody's learning how to do absentee balloting, and they're not planning on going to the polls, right? So typically everybody would go to the polls, except for people that were
the early voters are still going to the polls, and that's just really interesting.
It's amazing.
I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
So let's move on into talisman times. You finished up these extremely special talismans. So this was a first time thing that we've done. And we've always, we've been doing these pre-sale talismans, and shout out to all of our listeners who have been supporting those, because they're, really cool. You get to be a part of the creation of this talisman because it has not been made yet. These Mercury Cazimi talismans are very similar. However, you carved out the entire day for this Mercury Cazimi sun.
7 hours of it being within that 17 solar minute arcs.
And
solar arc minutes.
Yes.
Mercury retrograde.
And this was to strengthen the mind and clarify the message. So let's talk a little bit about these. I think you have a couple of the talismans still left because not all of those time slots were taken.
But I made them anyway. So they're on the website. I discover my hidden treasures. I freely express and communicate these thoughts, ideas, words, and processes openly. I already know.
I love that mic drop message because there is. And it's because sometimes we just overthink. We don't take the message that is so ringing true and run with it.
It's seriously, if you've studied something, if you use it in your day-to-day activity for years and years and years, and you're getting ready to write something or teach something or, bring something to a group of people, you're going to doubt your information. Yet, no one else has studied it this big, right? So,
and no one else has the perspective that you have.
Right. So you can be the expert. You don't have to doubt your expertness.
Yeah,
expertise.
And I think that's a tough word to work with, expert. What about the experiencer? This is the experience that you personally have. Because expert, you kind of feel like, oh, I need a PhD. I need, extensive knowledge and research on this. But what is also helpful is just sharing experience and sharing story. And that is what you can write about. You can be the expert. No one knows
what you know.
Right. No one has experienced what you've experienced specifically. And so sharing your message, sharing that part of your experience could be helping someone else. And so to strengthen the mind and clarify the message. The upcoming talismans that you have online for pre-sale, the first one is Monday, October 26th, to gather successfully in group activity.
I understand this message. In fact, I feel it. We all get along extremely well. The current members welcome the new members. So it doesn't mean age.
Right.
It just means those that have been there the longest welcome in the ones that are just joining.
And that's such a beautiful place to be in because that's when you can really tell a community is authentic and loving when those people aren't necessarily like seniority and like regarded as like overarching leaders that need to be like respected and that's a really humbling way to invite people in.
And we all get along. And so it's to gather successfully.
Beautiful. And Saturday, October 31st, Halloween, you're going to be making a talisman to take a bow and increase my responsibility.
Yeah, this is Moon in a trine to Jupiter. At least Jupiter's moving forward now. And the Moon being here in her exalted placement in a trine applying. I take advantage of the opportunity to make myself known in my chosen field. This comes natural for me. It's interesting because we just had that conversation it's kind of like the same theme because of that week of I'm going to take this opportunity to make myself known in what I want to talk about, in my chosen field. Like this comes natural for me to start talking, start writing.
And I like this too, because you say, take a bow. And I guess for some people, they might find it to be better sorted the other way. I increase my responsibility and I take a bow. But I like the way that you phrased it here because I take a bow and increase my responsibility. So it's it's that different order. And I think it creates a checkpoint for yourself where you're like, here I am, I'm proud of where I'm at. I'm still going to take another step.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
You know, when we were in Japan and we would meet, we were on TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were,
Shop Japan.
Oh my gosh, that was an
I was holding the cue cards up for you.
I have no idea.
I still remember what you needed to say.
What did I need to say?
Konnichiwa. Arigatou gozaimashita. Shibids no Sandy des.
Oh,
and that basically said, like,
that doesn't even sound familiar
hello,
to me.
thank you very much. I am Sandy from Shebeads.
And you made me, they made me say it, I don't know how many times, because we had so many breaks. And I was on TV for 3 days, something like that. But anyway, my point is that we had to go through some rituals, learning how to say hello to others in the Japanese. And you took a bow. You just bowed. And you each bow to one another, right? And then engage.
It's very respectful.
Oh, man. And so that kind of reminded me of that. It's like I take my bow and then I engage in the responsibility, right? Like, yeah. So I needed to say that.
It's very honoring.
Arigato.
I like that. Yeah. So moving on, on the horizon, we have Halloween Day. We're having our CWS. This is the November forecast, and this is our free event. However, we got a really cool spin on this one. So all you have to do, you don't necessarily have to wear your costumes right there, because I'll try to pop you on the call if you are there and dressed up. However, I also want you to have some Halloween costumes that you're wearing or have worn ready to post on, because we are going to be having some prizes, some Halloween prizes for some of the favorites.
Well, in theme to Hallows Eve, which we're going to talk about in our house, about the games they played, because there was, givings.
Right. And there was a huge meaning behind each one. And it's funny the way that a lot of the meanings had to do with, like, who are you going to marry and how many kids are you going to have?
Oh, you blew it.
No, I didn't. It's a little teaser. I think the games themselves are cooler.
Yeah.
Not the result of, are you going to get married or are you going to have kids? So November 11th, we have our webinar, and this is a new link that none of you have seen because I just had it put up on the website. So this is the stationing direct. This is Mercury, Mars, and Neptune, 3 planets that are going to all be trudging forth from their retrograde motion. And so this is Mercury, communication. This is Mars, about, aggression and focus and drive. And Neptune, this fantasy, vision, imagery. So this is going to be a really interesting webinar about how all 3 of these planets are going to be forming together and what will they be working on.
Yeah, they're not forming together. They're all moving in the forward direction, but they're not conjuncting.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
I guess I was saying it in that way, but they're all moving along.
Right. They're starting
along the path. Okay.
Start making some moves.
Yes.
On some territories that they hadn't been yet. Ooh.
Yes. So we have November 13th and 14th. This is the Quintessence virtual retreat that you will be co-hosting with a lot of women who are in the entrepreneurial field, are in the, are guides for their community. And it's going to be an interesting blend of all these spiritual females who are coming together and sharing their message, sharing their story, and sharing those things that they stick up for.
Do you have that link?
That link is in there, yes. So then we have December 9th. This is another CWS webinar. This one in particular is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about what this one's going to be?
This is it, folks. This is the big, happy conjunction of 2020.
Yay!
And Jupiter and Saturn are moving together at 0 degrees of Aquarius. One's moving December 17th. The other one's moving December 19th. And they're setting off a new 200-year cycle. This is big. In fact, we're having a talisman ceremony that weekend when this first comes in. There's no link because we're still working on what that looks like.
Yes. And we're going to be talking a lot about, too, the dance between Jupiter and Saturn, how Jupiter is the expander and Saturn is the contractor. However, this cycle is so necessary for every part of life. You know, where we can't always be growing. We do have to retract and pull in. There always has to be the
self-control,
the reach, but also the manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a synodic cycle that they meet up, every 200 years.
Yes. Also coming up, we do have more private events that we're able to schedule with you, as well as a virtual trunk show. So those links will be coming shortly. And
we missed community check-in.
Yes,
so we're hearing from people that, did I miss it? We're like, oh my God, we forgot to run it because I was going from my mom's house to back here, trying to get grounded, trying to get caught up with all the things that I do, my readings, my clients. Mm-hmm. Completely forgot about it. So we do want to bring it in November. I do miss them.
Yes. November 18th, we're going to be having the community check-in. So those links will be on here shortly. I'm going to pivot real quick and get that done. And of course, if you have any questions about any of our events, webinars, etc., please email me, alex@intentionbeads.com. I'm happy to help you. And sometimes it's just better to get this concierge service that I provide. So moving on, in our house, I'm so excited to talk about this because, and I don't know why, I've always loved Halloween. Okay. I'm not like super duper witchy or anything like that, but I am never a person to shy away from a theme party. I'm like the one that's planning it, or the one that shows up in the coolest outfit. So.
Or the only one showing up dressed.
Yes, that happens often too.
Yeah. You're full out.
And I can't believe the people that show up to a theme party with no themed attire.
No, the worst. How many times in the last 5 years have we gone to a themed party? When we get there, the theme party hostess is this much in costume.
And you're showing me a little minuscule piece.
They've got earrings on that have the theme. And
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Wigs, headpieces,
boas,
vests,
wigs, all of it. And we go all in. That's something that I love. But honestly, like, we don't do it for, the people at the party. We actually do it because it's so much fun to get and laugh at each other.
And the candy.
Well, okay, let's move back into talking about Halloween. So you did the coolest research on Halloween games back in...
last year we talked about Hallows Eve. Right. And doing some of the, Celtic mythology and the rituals and the symbolism that they did back in,
I think it was more Nordic,
13, 14, 15, 16th century, and how we got to the Halloween that we know here in America, right? And really, and when you see this word, it's pronounced Samhain, but it's spelled Samhain. So it makes you want to say Samhain, right? But it's Samhain. And it catches me every time. I'm like, I practiced that how many years? And so it's this festival for the beginning of winter. It's when they bring their herds, their cattle, their sheep, their whatever, from the upper summer fields to down to closer to the house, to their farm area. And they choose which ones they're going to slaughter, because now the grass.
And which ones they're going to stable, right?
Which ones are going to stable, because they have to have meat for the cold winter months for their family. And they have to provide food for the ones that they're keeping, that they're stabling.
Right.
And there's just not a whole lot of...
That's a tricky balance. I'm sure that was a sometimes tough decisions that you might have regretted later because it was extra cold, or, I don't know. Or
one, because do you save the heftiest ones to get through the winter so that you have, something in the spring to send out into the
right.
fields?
I have no idea.
That, continues that line. Or I'm sure it was. It's
interesting conversation for later.
It was a business move, I'm sure, back in the days.
So let's talk about the history in these games, because I'm so excited about them.
But the dead were honored at Samhain, and at the beginning of winter, when it's seen as the most fitting time to, as things were dying in nature, to honor the dead. And the souls of the dead were thought to revisit their homes, seeking hospitality. And so places at the dinner table where extra places were set and put by the fire so that they welcomed them in. And it was a belief that these souls of the dead, when they returned home on the one night of the year, they must be accepted and appeased in order to have some of these cultures have the fortune, future fortune. And so it was thought that, by the cold of winter drives away the poor, the shivering, the hungry ghosts from their fields, from the woods, and into this warm cottage shelter. And they were very thankful to their kin that would return to bestow blessings, which was different if there was a wronged person that would return to wreak havoc.
Wreak havoc, yeah.
So it was like, again, another
karmic lines,
right?
Yes.
And then you get into the games.
These are my favorite. I'm so excited.
Because one of the most common games is the apple bobbing. And we currently do that, right?
That stayed.
This one never did.
Well, talk about the two main,
I want to talk about the apple first.
Okay, we're talking about the apple, which represented.
Oh, so, yeah, that's right. Okay, so the apple and hazelnuts were the two items that were often used in these games. And the apples were associated with immortality. And the hazelnuts were associated with divine wisdom.
Yeah.
And that's why these two were used. And probably because they had a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, it's harvest time.
And so one of the games with the apple, now picture this, because it is kind of hard.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that they played this stupid game. It involved hanging a small wooden rod. It's like a wooden stick from the ceiling at about head height, just above your eyes, with a lit candle on the top and an apple hanging from the bottom. And the rod was then spun around, and everybody took turns to catch the apple peel in their teeth. But you might have...
I don't know. How did that not start fires?
Candle wax coming down on your face and your stuff
part.
And your hair. And these apples were peeled in one long strip. Like, how you peel an apple, zing, round, in one long strip. But the peel at that point, if somebody could get it into their teeth and rip it off while the candle's dripping on your face, I guess, and you toss this over your shoulder, it said that the form that this apple peel takes is the first letter of your future spouse's name.
So you throw it over your shoulder. Your friend tells you it totally looks like a J. And you're like, oh, John, I'm so excited.
Or Jim or Jonah, right? So that's one of the games.
Cool.
This one that is using the hazelnuts. You take 2 hazelnuts and put them near a fire because you're going to roast them.
Mm-hmm.
And you name one of these hazelnuts your name.
Okay.
And the other, you name the person that you desire. And if these nuts jump away from the heat, that's not so good. It doesn't bode well for the 2 of you.
They're scared of the nuts fire.
Roast quietly, it's a good match.
Ooh, interesting. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, here comes the theme that they're all looking for this mate, for this
also,
match.
Here's the other one. Items were hidden in food. Okay. Mm-hmm. They just put things in food and then dished out the food. And so at random, as you're serving dinner, I guess.
The luck of the draw.
And so the person's future was foretold by the item that they happened to find in their food or in their mouth after they put the spoon in. And so it was like, if you got a ring, it meant you were going to get married. If you got a coin, it meant you were going to be wealthy.
Interesting.
Yeah. The other thing was a very salty oatmeal, like cookie, was baked. And a person eats it in 3 bites and then immediately went to bed in silence without drinking anything. And it was said to result in a dream in which their future spouse offers them a drink to quench their thirst. Hey, man, I wish I'd lived back then.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
You want another one?
Yeah, we have time for one more.
Egg whites were dropped in water, and the shapes foretold the number of future children.
Now we're going into the children's sector.
So many little divinations or fun little things that happen during these festivals. And this is our Halloween. You don't want me to talk about that when they were guising themselves. Right? When
guising?
Mummying.
Like disguising?
Guising.
Okay.
It was called guising. Where they would dress up and go house to house in costume. And they would either sing songs or recite verses in exchange for food. And it was suggested that this tradition came from the people that were impersonating the souls of the dead. And they received offerings for their behalf. And if it was those people who exchanged food, gave food to these people, were for good fortune. They would have good fortune. So I guess I should buy some candy and put it out in front, and maybe be the jumbo size candy bars.
Okay.
Because you'll receive good fortune.
Yeah, that karmic ideal. Okay, well, anyone playing these games, of course, let us know how many kids you're going to have and who is going to be your spouse, or at least the first name. So I wanted to move over and talk a little bit about the 2020 Halloween costumes that I was checking out, and they're amazing. I mean,
really?
They're amazing because they remind us how much 2020 has literally felt like a lifetime. Because we start off with the quarantine couch potato, which is basically, it kind of looks like the hot dog costume that everyone's seen, but add a little couch on there with some popcorn and a Netflix remote. And the, what was that called? The murder hornet. Do you remember when the murder hornets were coming? And, basically a lot of those apocalyptic type of costumes. But one of my personal favorites, and I hope a lot of people do dress up, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, that's going to be an amazing one. Even if you find one of those like necklaces or neck pieces, the sheaths that she would wear. There's people doing like black tie on top with like boxers and shorts on the bottom. And they're like walking around with their Zoom call happening because it's like a virtual wedding that they're attending. Right. And there's, of course, Tiger King. There's, I mean, how many people watched that? I mean,
me.
Woo. Waste of time. But Hocus Pocus. Did you ever
see that movie. That is
okay.
Good, actually.
Well, they're actually coming out with Hocus Pocus 2.
Oh.
And that's coming out, I think, by the end of the year. I think this Halloween. And
you mean the end of the month?
Yeah, at the end of this month. Oh my gosh, what were some other... So, a really fun idea, and I don't know if I brought this to the podcast earlier, but you can all dress up with, and maybe this is a virtual event because I'm not telling everyone to like go and be in the same room together, but having all white t-shirts, and you can wear whatever pants you want, dress it up anyway, but it's called White Tea Lies. And so you have this white t-shirt, but you get to write a white lie on it. Something like, I never overdrink. Or just those like casual. I
never tell a lie.
Right. Or those little casual things that you say like, I'm definitely going to start my workout January 1. And all of those like real, where everyone knows you're probably not going to do it. Or that probably never happened. And of course.
But I don't understand.
Why?
So I go on Zoom, I wear a white t-shirt. Everybody there on Zoom in my little party has white t-shirts on.
And you write in a Sharpie.
Oh, I write mine.
You write your own white lie.
But isn't it backwards?
No.
Oh, why do I think it's sometimes backwards on Zoom?
Well, if you want to get into the whole Zoom interface, there is what's called a mirror effect, because when you're looking at the screen and if it were to show you what everyone else sees, it would almost frighten you. And it's because this is actually like a real phenomenon. It's a real phenomenon. And when
it's like theater mirrors. Theater mirrors.
Do they have
exactly?
They have the opposite.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, because the mirrors that we know that we look in every day, those actually reflect an incorrect image to us. So the way that we see in regular mirrors is not the way that other people see us. And because our faces aren't shaped perfectly asymmetrical, it's jarring when you see that. But there is in Zoom and in the little settings, you can change that. And you'll notice that when you do see what other people are seeing, it's a little bit interesting because you see that
immediately you go dark. It's like
turn it off right now.
Camera
this is freaky.
Off. Who is that person?
Yes. And so my all-time favorite that I definitely want to dress up as one time is Frida Kahlo. So that was the one I wanted to end with. So yeah. And this is going to be a blue moon. Don't forget, this is going to be a blue moon Halloween. So because we have 2 full moons in the month of October, that's why this is called a blue moon. But this is a really wonderful time, like any full moon, to really go in and take a look at your surroundings. Take a look at your ground because it's well lit. That's what you do during a full moon. And you observe. You observe yourself, you observe your feelings, you observe, and you take credit for the things that you have developed, but you also take credit for those other things that you've developed that you don't necessarily feel as proud of.
Which is that cattywampus look.
right.
Of the mirror. Look at yourself in 2 ways.
So, yeah. And interesting, I just bought a book that's about owning your inner shadow. And it says a look at the dark psyche, which I think is really interesting stuff to work with that shadow side, because Carl Jung phrased that, term as the shadow.
Did you buy me the book so we can talk about it?
It's only 120 pages, so I'm going to finish it in no time. I'll give it to you.
And we can talk about it.
We can talk about it.
I like conversations like that.
So I think that's an end to our episode. So we love you all. Thank you so much. This is episode 118. We have many, many, many more to go. And make sure that you send us some feedback. That is our sustenance. That is our food. That's what keeps us going here.
That's our candy.
Yeah. And even I want to know how you use these transits. Has there been one in particular that you've really enjoyed? I'll ask you again next week, but stay tuned next week for our next episode.
Well, I can tell you a bunch of those next week because I just talked to 15 people this week that have related stories to me.
Perfect. We'll do that. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, and we will see you next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
In the searching